What is up, Karatics? So this one's been a highly requested one from you guys, and that's the off-road capability testing for the recently added Declasse Yosemite 1500. So this off-roader is part of the bottom dollar Bounties DLC update and released on June 25th, 2024. So this off-road test is an update to my off-road capability testing series where I've tested the majority off-road capable vehicles in GTA Online. I'll leave a link down below to a playlist in the pinned comment where you will find all the other vehicles that I've done already so that you can compare. Also, before we start, if you have any questions as to how each obstacle is scored, please refer to the tutorial video which is linked in the pinned comment as well. Also remember that the most updated spreadsheet with all the off-road capability testing scores for vehicles I've tested so far will be linked in the pinned comment as well. So the Yosemite 1500 is primarily based on the Chevy Silverado 1500, specifically the GMT 800 platform, and has a price of $1.2 million. So pretty expensive for a pretty older looking normal Chevy pickup truck from the early 2000s, but these prices are to be expected these days with the crazy economy in GTA Online. But anyways, the following points for each obstacle will be out of 10 possible points. Each vehicle is fully customized with visual upgrades that provide the most ground clearance. So starting off with the incline test from a flat surface, the Yosemite 1500 does lack a bit in terms of acceleration and torque. It only makes it about halfway between red block number 3 and 4, which gives it a 3.5 out of 10. In stage 2 of this test, where it started at an angled position, it just barely makes it to red block number 4, which gives it a 4 out of 10 for this test. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 3.75 for the incline test, which is unfortunate, but obviously this truck really isn't all that powerful, so this is to be expected. Next up, we have the dirt incline test. It has great grip and just enough torque. It makes it to the top, which gives it a 10 out of 10 for this test. Continuing to dirt braking, this one is very surprising. It stops well before the markers at the bottom, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Rock crawling, it does decently well, however the long wheelbase is a bit of an issue. It bottoms out a total of 6 times through all 3 obstacles, which gives it a 4 out of 10. In stage 2 of this test, which is subjectively scored, it goes up most rocks, however the bumper clearances / hitboxes are a bit of an issue, therefore I can't give it more than a 7 out of 10 for this test. So if we take both those scores, we get an average of 5.5 for this test. Powertrain on the Yosemite is shockingly good. We see very slight wheel spin from the driver's side rear wheel and just barely any from the front wheel towards the end. It gets a well-deserved 9 out of 10 for this test. Continuing to bumper clearance, the Yosemite 1500 bumper clearance really isn't all that great. It scrapes twice out the back and once up the front, which gives it 7 out of 10 for this test. Suspension travel is slightly above average. According to the markers, it gets a 6 out of 10. High-speed stability is surprisingly good. I didn't think it would be this smooth, especially towards the end. It gets an 8 out of 10 for this test. Next up, we have the deep water testing. So for stage 1 of this test, it unfortunately does not make it to the end. It dies right at red block number 10, but again, it unfortunately didn't make it to the end, so that gives it a 9 out of 10. Moving on to stage 2, which is the deeper side, it dies right at red block number 8, which gives it an 8 out of 10 for this test. So if we take both those scores, that gives us an average of 8.5 for the deep water test. Not the best water fording, unfortunately, but that's to be expected with a truck like this. And lastly, we have the dirt acceleration test. Again, this path is roughly a quarter mile long. Using the handbrake launch, it gets a 13-second quarter mile, right on the pace of vehicles like the Car 4x4, the Yosemite Rancher, etc. Not bad at all. It gets a 7 out of 10 for this test. And finally, the off-road capability score for the Yosemite 1500 is 74.75 out of 100. That places it right between the Meriwether Mesa and the Hellion, which goes to show how capable this sort of average-looking pickup truck still is. And here it is compared to all the vehicles I've tested so far from all the different classes, and as you can see, it sits in 28th place out of the almost 50 vehicles I've tested so far, which I know might not seem like a great position, but honestly, I'm surprised how close it got to the Sand King XL, for example, which I think says a lot. So is the Yosemite 1500 worth its $1.2 million price tag plus upgrades? So essentially $1.5 million, all things kind of factored in there. Obviously, it's something that's really hard to judge these days in the current GT line economy. But if you're looking for a good value off-roader, this is definitely not the truck for that. This truck just so happens to be decent at off-roading, but it's not made specifically for off-roading. The Camacho, for example, is a much better overall choice. This thing is more of just a normal truck edition that just so happens to off-road a bit better than the other normal trucks in the game. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Well, that's it, guys. I hope this was helpful. Again, if I could see other videos on other vehicles I've tested so far and how the Yosemite 1500 compares to them in greater detail, I'll leave a link to a playlist down below in the pinned comment, as well as the spreadsheet, which will contain the most updated breakdown and scores for all vehicles in one place. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.